So good evening, everyone. Let's bow in. And tonight we're continuing on through Trungpa Rinpoche's Mind at Ease, doing the first half or so of chapter 8 on tranquility meditation, which basically is about Mahamudra Shamatha. Michael is going to lead off, so Michael, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. So we're entering yet another section of the text tonight. This entire section on tranquility meditation and the following chapter on insight meditation are both Path Mahamudra. And just to review from the very beginning of the book where he talks about ground and path Mahamudra, we talked about ground Mahamudra last week. The ground Mahamudra is referred to as the basis of purification, which we talked about last week in regard to Buddha nature, or the fundamentally awake nature of mind. And while the ground itself does not require any form of purification, the nature of mind is obscured by obscurations, conflicting emotions, the cognitive veils that we've talked about. And for that reason, that's precisely the reason we need a path, a method to alleviate our condition. So the objects of purification in regard to path are the adventitious mental conflicting emotions, and the means of purification is the practice of Mahamudra meditation, which we're beginning to talk about tonight. This particular chapter is on tranquility meditation, or what we more often call shamatha, or mindfulness meditation. And he starts right off by saying that it can't be stressed enough that the calming method of tranquility, or shamatha, is only a preliminary meditation practice, that shamatha, or mindfulness, is not the most important nor the most valued method of Buddhist meditation. Or as it's said in other texts, it's necessary but not sufficient, that shamatha by itself won't bring about enlightenment, that for that we need to develop vipassana, or insight meditation. And he says this is further made confusing by the fact that different teachers and people who presented meditation in the West have called shamatha an insight practice. And while the idea is that by settling the mind, vipassana develops out of that, shamatha by itself, as he says, is a distinct practice with a different purpose. And that in fact, shamatha, or tranquility meditation, is the foundation for vipassana, or insight meditation. That through shamatha, we develop the steadiness or the stability of mind that allows for the awareness of insight meditation practice to arise. And in terms of Mahamudra meditation, which we'll be talking about also tonight, the idea is that when we actually are able to settle the mind, when the mind is actually able to not get caught up in struggle with conflicting emotions, the various things that we take to be real that aren't, when the mind is actually settled, then the true nature of mind becomes more evident to us. And then that is further realized, recognized, and we develop confidence in that through the vipassana practice, which we'll be talking about later. But the basic practice is shamatha, and it begins by talking about the basic practice of shamatha in its most ordinary sense. And a lot of the instruction that he gives, I think, should be pretty familiar to people here. Basically, it's what we do pretty much every morning and every evening for the most part. He does again mention the importance of maintaining a straight back. But the purpose of shamatha, it's important to be clear on this. The purpose of shamatha is to allow the mind to settle, or to quiet the busy, distracted mind that otherwise follows thought after thought, feeling after feeling, perception after perception, in a distracted manner, or even a more absorbed manner, when we actually identify with thoughts and become completely lost. So with shamatha practice, there's always an object of meditation. There's an object that we relate to in shamatha. I really like the way Mingyur Rinpoche talks about this. He talks about the untamed wild mind as monkey mind, and he says that it's too wild to just settle right into awareness, so we give it a job to do, which is to pay attention to something. And that's the idea that in shamatha practice, there's an object of meditation, and we relate to that by placing our attention on that object, most often the breath, but there are other objects that are used as well. Traleg Rinpoche talks about anchoring our attention there, but often the word placement is used. And then the other aspect of shamatha practice is there's a sense of awareness, a small awareness, you could say, called sesshin actually, that knows whether or not we're doing that. Are we attending to the object of meditation? Are we aware of the object of meditation? In the section that John will be talking about later tonight, there's a verse from Shantideva that talks about mindfulness and compares the wild, untamed mind to an elephant, and talks about the rope, which is the object of meditation, and then the hook, which is the awareness that brings us back when we realize we've forgotten about or gotten lost in thought and forgotten about the object of meditation. So in shamatha, there's always an object of meditation, and that's what we relate to. And the question is, am I settled on that object or not? So placement is the job to do, and sesshin, or awareness, is that awareness of, am I doing this or not? It's interesting that I don't think Trungpa Rinpoche used visual objects as a method of shamatha meditation. Other teachers do. I have to say for myself, for a long time, when I tried using a visual object, I found it difficult. But at some point, something changed. And actually, I've come to appreciate meditation on a visual object. And it could be any object. It doesn't have to be anything special. It could be a rock. It could be a glass. It could be a wall. But the idea is that we attend to that visual object in the sense of fresh perception, that we always come back to that object, that we're not trying to analyze or label the object or describe it in any way. And similar to working with the breath, when we become distracted, we just come back to that visual object, whatever it is that we've chosen. But the idea is that we come back with a sense of fresh perception, as it says in the chant, breath, working with both the in and out breath, counting breaths, even briefly holding the breath and then out. All of these are meant, again, to make the object of meditation, in this case, the breath, as vivid and real as possible to us, as something that we come back to again and again and again.